Oh man, I was having music going. I was singing. I forgot to turn the sound on. I'm sorry. Good morning. Happy Thursday, December 17th. Past the halfway mark of what's going to become an incredible month. Thank you all for tuning in today. Let's get down to business. A little bump in my hair there. All right. There we go. The crowd is building. So I spend a lot of my time getting educated by Zoom, which is kind of annoying, but we're all doing it these days, aren't we? So a couple things I just wanted to bring to your attention because it's important. NAR has come up with a new hate speech policy, and it's very contentious because it takes away your rights of free speech. And they had a big, long webinar with all these important people on it, talking about get over yourselves. There's no discrimination. We as realtors sign up to be members of an association and we agree to abide by their codes. So it's not a federal thing where you give away your rights. It is you're a member of an organization that has policies and you're obligated to abide by the policies, or you don't have to be a member. And I think it's ridiculous they have to go to that extent, because there should be no hate speech coming out of any of our people, because it's bad for you, it's bad for the public, and it's bad for business. So I just want to bring that up. It's a big deal. So your Facebook, your commenting, your sharing, your posting can get you cited to the National Association of Realtors. So they're even talking about making it political. You know, if you're bashing other candidates and things like that, it's just not the place to do for business. So read up on it if you care to. Most of you this doesn't affect because you're good, caring people. But we have had some instances where public has been offended by things that we posted. And as a realtor, you're not allowed to do that now. So that's all I'm going to say on that point, but you get the concept. Second thing is, I get it. It's hard. Listings are tough. We can justify to ourselves all kinds of reasons not to put a house on the MLS so we can get our leads. But the clear cooperation policy is a big deal. So there's got to be fines. It's a tight market. Everybody wants to get into real estate, wants to find real estate. No public marketing of a listing unless it's on the MLS within 1 day. Sorry, I think my lens was kind of fuzzy there. I get these questions all day long. You guys are good. You're second guessing yourselves when you're questioning. I had one yesterday. It was, the house is just a mess. The guy doesn't take care of it. The kids are making a thing. It's not ready for photographs till after Christmas, but we listed it. So what do we need to do? We need an MLS waiver of listing. And then I've got another agent who came to me and says, hey, I got this listing. It's going to be ready for a while. I had the seller sign the exclusion from the MLS form. So it's an office exclusive. That's fine and good. It's an office exclusive. You can talk about it, but you can't publicly market it. And that gets a little deeper as we get into these stupid rules, because if we send an email to our agents within our company for our office exclusive listings, if our agents post that on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else, then what? We've been public marketing. So just keep top of mind, no public marketing to avoid fines and fees. Plus, it's not the right thing to do for the seller. So that's number two. I got some other, the other seminar I did yesterday was Cartus. I'm sorry, it's not Cartus anymore. It's the Realogy Advantage Broker Network. And I'll tell you, man, they are gearing up for some big stuff. Katarina Hellenkamp was on board with a whole bunch of corporate staff talking to the Cartus brokers and relocation directors about their plans for 2021. Here's the deal. We, as an industry, going forward, are going to be judged by our ability to convert leads, period. That's where it's going. So all the lead sources, ourselves included, are striving to generate qualified leads that are ready to work with now. Talked to an agent last night. Showed houses for 3 days. Found a house they finally wanted. Agent said, okay, we need a down payment, an earnest money deposit. We want it to be big, so you get a chance to win, because there's probably multiple offers. Good conversation to have. Too late to have it, but a good conversation to have. Turns out the buyer doesn't have enough cash to close. And, shoot me in the head. I said, why didn't you know this before you spent 3 days carting that buyer's ass around in your car or in their car, showing them houses? Guys, get sharp now. Call their loan officer before you show them houses and find out where they are in the process. My camera looks really blurry to me. Is it blurry to you guys? It's weird. I can't stress that any stronger. Go back to Next Level University and be3agents.com and watch the buyer day. We were very, very strong about what you need to do to save your time and energy during this time. Because if you're going to bring an unqualified buyer around in a multiple offer situation with low inventory, it's going to suck. Yesterday morning, I got up early and I did some MLS searching, and I'm going to have the managers do this all next week. For fun, just to go, because I only did Apollo Beach because I didn't have the time to do them all. Resale listings between 0 and 100,000, there's 2. They're mobile homes. And this is just in 33572. Between 100 and 200,000, there's 9 houses. Between 2 and 300, there's 13 houses. Between 300 and 400, there's 11 houses. Between 500 and 800, there's 20 houses. Between 800 and 1 million, there's 5. And over 1 million, there's 9. That's it. That's the only inventory there is. And the reason I did that is I wanted to see market share because, Century 21 Corporate is asking us to do goals for 2021. Interesting. We're asking you to do goals for 2021. And one of the goals was market share. And I talked to Jody about that. And I said, market share is hard because we cover such a broad geographic area. And you don't want to say, what's our market share in Pinellas County? What's our market share in Sarasota County? Because it would be a pimple on a gnat's behind. So we decided just to pick the office zip code that we're in and to set some goals, if you will, to raise that next year. So the first thing I did was go look and I said, okay, how many listings are active in the market? And 33572. And the answer is 116, which sounds, decent, until I found out that 41 of them were new construction, which means there's only 75 resale listings on the market. And there's been, 60 selling a month. So that's a 1.2 month supply of homes. Of the 75 resales, 37 are waterfront and 38 are non-waterfront. Crazy. And then this is depressing to me. Century 21 has 9 of the 75 resale listings. And our biggest competitor has 20 listings. We have half of our next biggest competitor. We're number 2 by half. That is just not acceptable. We're going to do some focused. If we can't get market share where we have physical plants, we got to focus some more. And I told you, one of my neighbors, I had words with the other day, and he told me that he's getting calls from for sale by owners all the time, or on as for sale by owner all the time from agents, mostly Keller Williams, but he's got no calls from Century 21 agents. Come on, guys. This is it. It's a market share grab right now, and listings are the name of the game. And those of you I'm talking with are saying, I'm focusing on listings. I'm focusing on listings. Well, we're going to take some action on that. So that being said, so Cartus, back to I deviated. Cartus is really, really focusing on delivering connections like Zillow is doing. Everybody's kind of copying Zillow right now because internet leads convert at a 2% rate without proper incubation. And none of us are capable of doing proper incubation unless there's artificial intelligence unit behind us doing it for us, which you have, but you have to use. So AARP is huge. They've got all kinds of marketing. I had to phase in and out for some things, so I missed some of it. But they're talking about television commercials and all that stuff. Did he list, Nancy? He's such a jerk. Anyway, okay. But that's it. We have to know what's going on in our marketplace. We're not going to win them all, of course. Anyway, so you're going to see lots of business coming from Cartus next year. So, but my point was lead conversion is how they're going to be deciding who's going to get these leads. So they said it with no uncertain terms. Those who convert are going to get deals. Those who don't. So I should probably pull that lead questions asked form up. But basically, I just want you to keep this top of mind. Whenever you meet somebody new, your job is to question them. And then when you question them and they answer, you do what? You repeat and confirm. And then you listen to their cues to make an assessment of whether they're visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. And if they are one of those three, you play back words that mean something to them and that style. You get to assess whether they're D, I, S, or C. And when you're taking your notes, we want you to write on your lead form D, V. That would tell you when you're doing your lead follow-up that this D is a visual. And so when you're calling them up, you can use visual words. This is just basic, simple things. But this is how it's going to go for those of you that are getting a lot of business leads sent to you. Your ability to convert, which makes sense. If we're going to be paying, Cartus, anybody's paying to get these leads and nourish these leads, we have to get a return on the investment because they're going to cost more. And that's just how it works. So that was good. All right. So I've been dealing with some arbitration issues late with the board. And I think I've mentioned Sarah Parsons is the GTAR arbitration person. And she's on a mission to make sure that everybody's familiar with the code of ethics. And last night she sent me the, what's it called? It's open. I'm going to share it with you in a second. So I thought we'd talk about ethics a little bit today until my daughter Samantha gets on board. And we're going to talk about .loop after that. So get your questions ready because we've got answers coming your way. So I'm going to share my screen for a moment. And little Zach Brown. That's what I was playing before I realized my sound was off. Microsoft Word. This is the preamble to the code of ethics. So all this stuff, I did a lot of realtor stuff yesterday. Listen to all those people. So the code of ethics is our mission as realtors to provide service to the public. All right. And the National Association of Realtors is one of, if not the largest trade organizations in the country with number of members and revenues and all kinds of stuff. I was in Chicago a couple of weeks ago and walked right by NAR's building. They got their own building downtown Chicago. It's a big deal. By the way, I was reading through the news this morning on my email and it said major snowstorms in the Northeast. Talked to my daughter Sam last night and it's snowing in Chicago. He sent me pictures. Okay, so one of the deals, the preamble, so this is not, the code of ethics is what we subscribe to as realtors, which lay down rules for dealing with the public. So we have respect for the public, we have respect for property, and we have respect for peers. So this might be a little bit boring, but sometimes the boring things lead to results that are exciting. So let's talk about what the preamble to the code of ethics is. And then we'll be talking about the code of ethics. And this comes up from, I did an arbitration a couple of weeks ago. And long story short, an agent was working with a buyer. The buyer put an offer on a house. The agent really did work his butt off to try to get this house sold, but he wasn't good. And the deal fell apart. And not really it was his fault. He could have done things differently. He didn't have the proper steps. He didn't take control of the lending situation. It just wasn't, he didn't do a good job. And the customer was staying with a past client of one of our agents who said, why don't you work with this person? They did a good job for me. Great. So what happened there? Let me get off. I'm going to talk about this for a minute. So I'll take this off. What happened there was a relationship was broken. The agent was effectively fired and went to work with another agent. The other agent showed them houses, different towns, across town. And over time, they came back to this town and made an offer again on the house they had under contract with agent A. Okay, so we knew this was happening, right? And when we talk about duties in the code of ethics, this was a code of ethics charge. It was a procuring cause charge, which leads to the code of ethics, which is treating our fellow realtors friendly. So long story short, we did the arbitration. It was like 3 hours on Zoom, and 99.9%, 99.5% of the time, when you go to arbitration, it's an all or none ruling. They say, you get nothing, you get it all. You get nothing, you get it all. Either party gets it all. And this particular time, it was a hung jury. That they could not decide. They said, we think this agent did a lot. We think that agent did a lot. In this case, we're going to split the baby. And they did. They awarded half of the commission to the other side. So we had to relinquish half the commission we paid, which means the company gives up its side, the agent gives up its side. And then we go through this process where it's there's an appeals process. And the way the hearing was held on Zoom, our agent felt that it was not following protocol. So we could appeal the process, have the hearing evaluated, and if they found there was procedural difficulties, that they would then have to do another arbitration, which leads to another panel, which leads to another chance for an all or nothing settlement versus the half that we got. So anyway, I've been dealing with these things a lot. So, and then our agent wrote a letter, an email to the team leader for the agent who bungled the first deal, basically calling him a moron and saying he should check out his stuff. And so when that came out, the broker for the office, threatened to file an ethics claim against our agent. So you got a procuring cause claim and now you got an ethics claim, all from this stupid stuff. So I'm talking to the mediator and she's the one saying, you really need to educate your agents on how this stuff works, because we have to be members of the MLS if we want to be, have access to MLS, which is kind of important. So anyway, back to the preamble to the Code of Ethics, and we'll spend more time on this in the next coming weeks so we can be aware. There it is. Oh, banging going on. All right. So respect for the public. Follow the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Fair. I actually like the Platinum Rule. That's a good book if you want to read one. Platinum Rule is do unto others as they would want you to do unto them, not the way you would do. But anyway, I digress. Respond promptly to inquiries and requests for information. This is pretty basic, right? Schedule appointments and showings as far in advance as possible. Call if you are delayed or must cancel an appointment or a showing. Think of all the times this doesn't happen. If a prospective buyer decides not to view an occupied home, promptly explain the situation to the listing broker or the occupant. I mean, that's happened. Yeah, it's happened to me a lot. Agent shows up, buyer looks to how I don't want to see this one, and they walk away. Well, the proper thing is to have respect for the public and explain why. Communicate with all parties in a timely fashion. When entering a property, ensure that unexpected situations such as pets are handled appropriately. Leave your business card. It happened to you, right? Yeah. Leave your business card if not prohibited by local rules. Why would that be? I'll tell you, there's a couple of reasons. One, to show that you showed up, because the biggest thing is seller was, what happened? What happened? Two, if they happen to be at home when you're showing and they like the way you operated, they'll keep your card and they might call you when their listing expires. I've had that happen too. Never criticize property in the presence of the occupant. Inform occupants that you are leaving after showings. When showing an occupied home, always ring the doorbell or knock and announce yourself loudly before entering. Knock and announce yourself loudly before entering any closed room. I've heard some funny stories about not knocking and walking into people's homes. Present a professional appearance at all times, dress appropriately, and drive a clean car. If occupants are home during showings, ask their permission before using the telephone or the bathroom. If they're not home, I've actually heard stories of people not flushing the damn toilet and the seller calling and yelling at us. Like we can control what people do, but they do it. Encourage clients of other brokers to direct their questions to their agent or representative. Communicate clearly. Don't use jargon or slang that may not be readily understood. Yeah, the HOA is this and the CDD is that, and all the jargon we go through. The PMI is not included in this one, and this CDD, whatever. Don't use jargon so you can be readily understood. Be aware and respect cultural differences. Show courtesy and respect for everyone. Be aware of and meet all deadlines. Promise only what you can deliver and keep your promises. Identify your realtor and your professional status in contacts with the public. Realtor. Not every agent is a realtor. There's real estate agents and there's realtors. Realtors are agents that subscribe to the Code of Ethics, which is what we're talking about. Do not tell people what you think, tell them what you know. So that's kind of like basic, rules to live by. And then we've got respect for property. Mike, if you're listening, we need to keep an eye out for Samantha and make her a co-host so we can See if she's here real quick. Not yet.
I don't
She's
see
signing
it
up.
yet.
Okay, thanks. Respect for property. Be responsible for everyone you allow to enter a listed property. Now, this gets into COVID times. And, I'm telling you right now, I am not afraid of COVID. But there are a lot of people that are. But I'm also very conscious of being clean and not bumping into people and, that stuff. But everything I'm reading says this thing is bad and it's going to be around for a long time. So we need to do our best to control the spread. This was one of my other topics today. I mean, our staff in Apollo Beach got alerted, and it turns out I got the story wrong, but I still want to make the statement. An agent was in the office 2 days ago, went home. The next day, somebody called them from a place they were at and said, hey, by the way, there was an infected person here. So you need to, be aware. So the day after, it's kind of like what happened to our it doesn't matter. The day after somebody was exposed to, not necessarily contracted, was exposed to somebody who had it, came into the building. They didn't know they had it. But anyway, we just have to be conscious. So if there's any signs, I went to the doctor yesterday for my Dr. Axe, actually, the chiropractor guy that's been on our news. I got my x-ray results. It was fascinating to see that I've got some areas that need help. I got some degenerative discs in my neck, and I've got some, what's the gap between your spine vertebrae? Some thinning areas, which are going to get worse and worse. And what he told me was, if you bought brand new tires and they're 60,000 mile tires, and you take it to the shop and the guy looks at it and says, man, your tires are wearing bad. He says, I can fix it. It needs to be aligned. So if I align it, does it put the tread back on the tire? No, but it makes them last longer. All right. So that's what he's telling me about my back. So it's just fascinating. Remember, you all get a free x-ray session with them. You go in, take the x-rays, you come back the next week, and they give you the results and tell you what protocol you need to follow. And they give you an option to sign up or not. No pressure at all, but a pretty cool facility. So anyway, I deviate. So be responsible for everyone you allow to enter listed property. That means have open discussion about, hey, are you sick? Do you have a fever? Do you have any flu indications? Maybe rubber gloves, maybe hand sanitizers in your cars. I keep wipes in my cars. Just have all that stuff in case they're not responsible. Never allow buyers to enter a listed property unaccompanied. When showing property, keep all members of the group together. It's crazy to think, but there's actually thieves that go around pretending to be buyers. They probably haven't talked to a loan officer, so you vetted them that way, you'd probably figure that out. Never allow enter property only with permission, even if you have a lockbox key or combination. When the occupant is absent, leave the property as you found it. Lights, heating, cooling, drapes, etc. If you think something is amiss, e.g. vandalism, contact the listing broker immediately. Be considerate of the seller's property. Don't allow anyone to eat, drink, smoke, dispose of trash, use bathing or sleeping facilities. Don't take a nap in the listing. Or bring pets. Leave the house as you found it unless instructed otherwise. Use sidewalks if weather is bad. Take off shoes and boots inside the property. Respect seller's instructions about photographing or videographing the property's interiors or exteriors. Some of this is pretty dated now in light of the world we're in. And this is the part about realtors. I'm going to get back to the arbitration in a second. Identify your realtor and professional status and all contacts with other realtors. Respond to other agents' calls, faxes, and emails promptly and courteously. That needs to happen more. Be aware that large electronic files with attachment or lengthy faxes may be a burden on recipients. Lengthy faxes, dated. Notify the listing broker if there appears to be inaccurate information on a listing. Good idea. Share important information about a property, including the presence of pets, security systems, and whether sellers will be present during showings. And I would also add video and audio recording capabilities. Show courtesy, trust, and respect to other real estate professionals. Avoid the inappropriate use of endearments or other denigrating language. Oh, come on, sweetie. Do not prospect at other realtors' open houses or similar events. I knew somebody who used to do that all the time. Return keys promptly. God, that's dated, isn't it? We used to do that. And the front desk in every office would have keys to our listings, and a co-broke would drive to the office to pick up the key to go show the house and then drive back to the office and drop off the key. We've come a long way, baby. Carefully replace keys in the lockbox after showings. To be successful in the business, mutual respect is essential. And real estate is a reputation business. What you do may affect your reputation and business for years to come. And that was a point that Sarah and I talked to yesterday. So in the end of this arbitration, which we ended up settling, and we're happy to not happy, but it's better than 100% loss. We got a 50% loss. But looking back, what did we learn from it? And this is something I want you all to take away from us. We knew that another agent had worked with this buyer, and we know that that agent had written an offer on this house. So flip it. What did it say in the very beginning? Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. What would you want done in that case? Yes. Yeah, she sent it to me last night. This is hot off the press. Hey, Craig, this is a really awkward situation, but you know John and Mary Smith that you were working with? Well, I've been working with them for the last 3 weeks, showing the houses all over town, and we can't find anything for them. And they want to go back and make an offer on the house that you had an offer on. So it's kind of awkward for me. I mean, they obviously fired you, but I don't want to get into an arbitration with you at this. So I'd like to offer you a referral fee if I make an offer on this, if I am able to purchase this house with them. That goes so far, according to the arbitration people. Just the fact that you made the offer, whether they accept it or not, would make you look like a ethical agent in the eyes of the hearing panel, right? And to avoid, I mean, remember I said 99.5% of the time, it's all or nothing. So that agent's gonna figure out that house sold, and it's not hard to figure out who the buyer was. And when he finds out by surprise that his buyer bought the house he sold and did a lot of work on that fell apart, he's probably going to call you up, right? And the right thing is to work out amongst yourselves, but we didn't do that. And then you ended up having arbitration, which was a lot of time and a lot of energy. And then you risk losing all of it. And I would tell you my position in that was he lost the buyer. The buyer fired him, didn't want to do business with him. Lots of time passed. What is the thing for procuring cause? Uninterrupted sequence of events that leads to success. The sequence of events was disrupted when our agent got involved in the first place. Our agent showed them houses all over town and different houses, and they happened to find this one. And my argument at the hearing was, hell, if they had bought house B, we would not be having this conversation because the realtor was fired and they just couldn't get away because the guy really did do a lot of work trying to make it happen, but it didn't. So anyway, the takeaway was, and when you come into a situation where you're unclear, what you want to do is call it out. Hey, Bob, your buyers came to work with me for the last 3 weeks. I've been showing them houses. They want to go back to the same house you wrote an offer on with me. I don't want to end up in a battle with you, but what do you think we should do? They don't want to work with you anymore, and I've been working the last 3 weeks. Oh, screw them. I don't even want to let them go. That could happen. Well, why don't you pay me a referral fee? I really did do a lot. Okay, I'll do that. How about you split it with me? Nah, I don't think about that. Either way, just if you brought it up ahead of time before it went under contract, would make you look much better in the light of a hearing person. So that's a takeaway. There's a lesson for you because you're all going to come across that situation. Mike, Samantha, promote to panelist. I can do it from my desk. That's pretty cool. Hello, Samantha. Right on time, baby. See what chat says. It would be better. Yeah, the agent claimed, Deb wrote a question, says, can you recommend the buyer fires the agent in writing or an email? Yes, that would help. Anything would help to let them know, hey, just so you know, Bob, I'm not working with you anymore. I think you did a shitty job on that sale. That would have gone a long way. That didn't happen either. But a lot of times buyers don't want to get involved in that either. Okay.
It won't let me share a video. It says unable to start video, and it says I can't do it because the host has stopped it.
Let's see. Well, Mike is the host.
I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if you can hear me.
No, I want Mike's listening. So, Mike, can you make Samantha give her room to share?
Yeah, she should be able to do it now.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock in Chicago. How
Yes,
cold
it
is it
is.
there?
It's really dark in here.
Is it cold?
Yeah. It snowed yesterday. That
I
was
know you
fun.
can take pictures.
Oh, God, it's really dark in here. It's fine. Okay.
It's gloomy here too. Oh, it's really dark in there. You need
Yeah,
a
I have no overhead light in my apartment.
But if you look out the back of Sammy's window, you can see Trump Tower.
You
Just
can't.
saying.
Yeah, I'm not gonna move for you.
Okay, so this is intended to be a Q&A because I hope you guys have some questions.
Yeah. Any dot loop questions? Let me know. I don't know.
But in the meantime, Sam, I believe in supporting our staff. So you have free reign to be kind, but tell us what drives you crazy that people could do to make your life easier.
I don't know. Dot loop is getting a lot better. There's a lot.
How about submitting for review in a timely manner?
Yeah, submitting for review versus sharing. That's a hot topic. You share to your clients and you submit for review to the back office. So when you share the documents to us, it essentially creates a new loop, and you won't see the new loop. It just shows up on the admin side. And eventually when we remove ourselves from the loop, when you add listings basically or to the loop, or you add Sam or Ange or Chris or anyone on staff, it'll create a fake loop for them. And not a fake loop, but it creates a client view basically. So when we go to search that, we're going to see multiple loops, and then we have to figure out which one to click into. And that can muddle it because I know you know about how many multiple loops can be submitted. Yeah, so that happens very quickly and very easily. So if you submit for review to us, that doesn't happen. And then there's a less step for us because we don't have to go in and do a little bit of cleanup and submit the loop so we can, because when you submit the loop, you're submitting it so it allows us to accept or decline the document. So when you share it, it doesn't give us those rights. And that's the whole point of submitting for review, is to get your file approved. So when you share it to us, it doesn't give us those rights, and we have to figure it out. Nancy wrote in and said, I tried to unarchive a file within a loop and I see where to do it, but it didn't happen. What was I doing wrong? So without looking at it, I can't really tell you. But it depends on a couple things. If the folder itself that the document is in is archived and you unarchive the file in the unarchived folder, it's still going to be in the archived folder. So you would have to unarchive the whole folder instead of just that particular document, because when you unarchive the document, it's going to the archived folder. So if you wanted to unarchive it without unarchiving the folder, you could unarchive the folder real quick, get that document into a different folder that you've already started, and then go back and archive the rest of those. So there's a little bit of back and forth that you would have to do. But my guess reading that would be that the file in the folder was unarchived, but the folder itself was still archived, so it's not going to show up.
Hey, Sam, I've got to run downstairs to turn off my sprinklers for the gas man. So just keep talking over there.
Okay. Yeah, if you have any questions, just write them in. I don't really have much.
I'll turn them off right now.
Loop was active, file within loop was archived. Nancy, you can email me the address and I can take a look at the loop, and I can better assist you that way, just because it's hard to see without seeing it, what's going on. Angela wrote in. So Angela's been helping on the contract side since Danielle left. So she's been a huge help, I know, to my mom, Angelique. So Angela, she said maybe when an agent is repping both sides and how to build that loop. So that's important because when you have a listing and you get a buyer on it and you're double siding it, you don't have to create a new loop for your contract. You're going to start a new folder within your existing listing loop. And there's multiple reasons for it, but the main one for you guys that you'll care about is when you start a new contract loop, you'll build in a new template, right? So if you start a new loop, you're going to start with a new whole new package. You're going to have nobody in your loop, and you're going to have to add your sellers in. You're going to have to add the agents in. But if you do it in your listing loop, and let's say that contract cancels, then you'll have to figure it out anyways. But yeah, in your listing loop, start a new folder, add those paperwork in, and then if you get another offer, you can add a new folder in that loop still. And then let's say the first one that you're double siding doesn't go through, you can just archive that, and then you'll still have the other offer in the same place in the same file. We were just talking about what Angela wrote in about. So yeah, and if you're not representing the buyer and it's on your listing, you still want to keep it in the same loop, because when you start a new contract loop, it's going to have the affiliated business for the buyer. It's going to have the home warranty for the buyer. And you don't need that if it's not your client. So a lot of people will write in and say, I can't submit this because I don't have the buyer and it's asking me for the affiliated business for the buyer to submit. So if you just add a new folder in your existing listing loop, it'll save you a bunch of trouble down the road.
Makes sense. And the Q&A, Jennifer wrote in, I submitted a contract 2 weeks ago and submitted for review, and the status is still in initial review. So I'm wondering if I did it right.
Tell us what the address is, Jennifer, and I'll pull it up and we can look together.
Cool.
Because it depends on if it actually submitted. It depends if you submitted it to the contracts team. I won't know until I can look at it.
Because Dotloop tracks every activity that's done. You can see who opened it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to just deviate for a second because there's a chat that popped in here that's very interesting. That's what I was talking about before you got here. It says, what do you do if the seller of your listing was just hospitalized with COVID-19 and you received an offer on the commercial property before you can temporarily take it off the market? It's my gas man again. Can you read that rest of that statement? It's in the Q&A.
Yeah, let me pull it up. What do you do if the seller of your listing was just hospitalized with COVID-19 and you received an offer on the commercial property before you can temporarily take the property off the market? The seller doesn't want it publicly known that he is currently hospitalized for COVID because he feels it will cause him to receive lower offers. I don't know, Craig will be better to answer this, but from the listing perspective, I would say still take it temporarily off market. If you can't show it, I know MLS has rules right now that virtual showings are allowed. So maybe that's something you can look into, and you can just mention something in the realtor remarks about, virtual showings only. But I don't know about if you're already receiving offers.
Well, I think the fact of the matter is that house needs to be cleaned. It needs to be taken off the market for 14 days and cleaned and sterilized before anybody goes in it.
Yeah, I would still TOM it.
I would definitely TOM it. TOM it, and like the idea of virtual showings. And the seller doesn't want you to know, doesn't want it disclosed. And that's fine. That's not a material fact that affects the value of property. It's just a matter of being kind and caring and not risking people's lives by letting them into a house that could be infected.
All right. So back to Jennifer's question. Could I share my screen?
Yes.
I think this will be a learning experience. Desktop. All right. So you have submitted your loop correctly. The problem is that you submitted it to closings. And so that's where the problem comes in, because closings doesn't monitor it for compliance review, doesn't monitor it for this path. So make sure that whatever loop no, sorry, whatever folder name you're submitting. So if it's your, and this is why we do it. So listing folder will have listing seller's last name. The buyer says contract buyer last name.
Yeah,
So
you're supposed to change the name of that file.
yeah, we 99% of the time admin do it and it's fine. But yeah, so contract buyer last name. So if it's the contract folder, you should be submitting it to contracts. If it's the paid at closing folder, you can submit it to paid at closing, and you choose that from here. So contract, it should match contracts. Paid at closing, if you were submitting this, it should match paid at closing. If this was your listing folder, it should match listings. So you can change who you submit it to, and that will be a big deal at time of review because closings team isn't going to catch it because their filters aren't set up for this. And so I'm glad you wrote in.
That happens a lot.
It does happen a lot. And it's easy to click the wrong name. It's easy to think, oh, it's my listing, so I'm going to submit my contract to listings. That happens a lot. But the contract, so I will pin stuff when agents send it to the listings at c21be.com because I'm in there and I want to help them.
What does that mean, you pin stuff?
Right. So agents all the time will email to listings and say, please pin, because it's their listing. So in their mind, it goes to listings. But at that point, it's your contract. So you need to send it to the contract team to be properly processed. So it's just getting used to sending it to contracts if it's a contract, even if it's on your listing. But a lot of the times I can go in MLS and pinned it. And then I just let the contracts team know that I did that and that they can follow up with it. So yeah, Jennifer, I'm going to go ahead and just submit this to contracts because I know that it needs to get move the ball rolling on it. So now contracts will jump in. They'll enter it into our systems. They'll review it for compliance and they'll be in touch with you. And they'll they'll clean up your loop a little bit too.
But Jennifer, I want to bring up, don't wait 2 weeks. If you see something's not done, get on it fast.
Yeah, because I know they're the contracts.
That could be a November contract for all we know. I mean, we've got 2 weeks into it now. Yeah,
Angela and Celeste are very diligent on the initial review, and they're getting things pinned by the end of the day every single day. So yeah, if you see something and it's waiting for 2 weeks, don't raise a red flag, say, hey, what did I do? What's going on? Don't be afraid to write in and ask. That's what we're here for, to answer your questions.
Cool. That was good advice.
Yeah.
What is that pop-up window that says, hello, the deal sheet isn't marked for a sign, but I want to check to make sure? Yeah. Guys, this is a problem. Really, we need your help on this one. The deal sheets.
Frequently pasted messages to everyone.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's why this is top, because I have to ask for this a lot.
So the deal sheet, most of you are ignoring, and it's really not right. The staff is like your assistant, paid for by the company, and the deal sheet gives them instructions so they can not bother you and get things done. Mm-hmm. And it's the biggest complaint that I've heard from the staff, that the agents don't fill out the deal sheet. It's an extra minute. It's in dot loop. Just go fill it out.
And most of the referral fees.
Yeah, most of it's autofill, but nobody goes in and adds the specifics.
Extra stuff. Yeah,
the extra stuff is what they don't know is what they need. Mm-hmm. So you got a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah, I do. The listing agreement, there's so much in here that I have copy and paste things. Thanks, Mom. Cool. When you have to repeat the same thing over and over, sometimes it's just easier. The other thing, maybe I'll mention when I'm in here just because it happens a lot. The listing agreement, there's a box on the listing agreement that says do not display the property address online. A lot of the times the people don't read the full sentence, and it just it's talking about displaying the property online, and so they click that box. But if they read the sentence fully, they would see it was to not display the address online.
Just as a rule, I checked all the boxes automatically that you need. If it's unchecked, we don't want it.
So this is a big thing that happens a lot, and they always come back and say, oh, that was marked on mistake. That was marked, an error. I definitely want the address shown online. But I have to say it so much that I have a canned response for it. If that tells you anything.
Well, what other canned responses do you have?
I don't know. There's so many.
Well, that's
one.
This is your chance. We're not getting a whole bunch of questions here, so.
And then I just have I don't know. I have answers to things when people commonly ask questions. Rentals, we're still doing the listing to listing link. I don't know if there's anything worth mentioning in here.
Well, here's one. My buyer from 2 years ago is going to list her house with me in January. Do I unarchive the closed buyer file and make a new folder as a listing loop?
Wait, let me pull that back up.
In a chat.
Yeah. Where do I see? Why can't I see?
Lisa. 6 up from the bottom.
I know. I can't even see the chat though. Oh, here we go. No, that's the Q&A. What am I missing?
If you maximize your screen.
Oh, maybe because I'm sharing my screen.
Nope, it'll pull up.
I know, but I don't see it on my screen.
Just minimize Zoom and it'll be behind it.
No, but I don't really even have Zoom open on my screen. Oh, I see what I did. No, that's not correct either. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
And there we go. Now I can see it. Okay. Buyer from 2 years ago is going to list her house with me in January. I would say start a new loop. Just start fresh with a new set of documents because all of the old information is going to be in the view details and you're going to have to change it all anyways to autofill your documents correctly. And if it's your buyer from 2 years ago, that means you don't have the listing paperwork anyways, because she bought the house. So that's going to be a contract loop from 2 years ago. I would say definitely start a new loop and just start fresh with new details. All your paperwork will fill in without you having to figure it out.
Yeah, because you have to go and change buyer to seller everywhere.
Yeah, and then also like in the back office, you'll see when we process a folder for it being closed, it'll have the tag in the top of CLSD and our back office tag number, basically, transaction number. So if you see that, if it's a withdrawn file, it'll have WD. If it's canceled, it'll have CAN. So if you see that, that means it's a processed closed file on our end, and it's okay to start a new loop because it's a new transaction that's being brought in. So yeah, if you submitted a contract, no, we already went for that. Yeah, to the archive question, it would depend if it was a required file for agents. And if it is required, that means that the agent won't be able to archive it and unarchive it at free will. That is a good point that Celeste brought up.
Cool.
And then, yeah,
So-
Deborah said commercial property, no one lives there. Oh, I guess that's about the COVID question.
Right. So, part of the deal is agents respecting you in your job, and part of you is you guys respecting them in their job.
Mhm.
So,
And
an
understanding
agent,
each
I haven't
other.
heard this complaint from anybody, but I just want to go public saying it.
Mhm.
Right now, the market is so hot that when there's an active listings, there's a bunch of agents that want to show it
Mhm.
because they want to get their buyer in there quickly. So the busy agents that have listings,
Are
when
busy.
it's active, they get calls
Yes.
and they get it sold. And sometimes they only get it sold at 10 o'clock at night, and they want to mark pending so the phone doesn't blow up all morning tomorrow.
Mhm.
So what's the best way for them to submit to you? Well, first of all, a couple things.
Mhm.
The right thing to do is submit your contract for review and it'll go pending that day.
Yes.
But if you need something, you can always send an email and say, hey, I got this under contract. Can you mark it pending?
Mhm.
Right. And it'll do that from an email without having the complete file, right?
Yeah, and we'll just need the co-broker's agent name and the expected close date. That's all MLS requires of us. So if you have that already, but your paperwork's not ready yet, feel free to just shoot an email to the contracts team. They'll be able to pin it with just the co-broker's agent name and the expected closing date. Those are
Right.
the two required fields in MLS.
But if you just say, please pen this for me, then you're going to get another question back that says, who's the co-broke agent?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Or we can check in the loop, and sometimes the paperwork will have been started enough where we can check it for ourselves, and we will instead of asking the agent, just because it's faster, depending on who it is. But yeah, I mean, realistically, we're here to have your back. Like, we are not pinning yourself on purpose. there's just a lot going on right now, and there's a lot of contract activity as
Yeah,
it is.
next week and the week after that are going to be hell.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we have
Listings
that
are,
many closings.
yeah.
Listings are going to be helping out contracts going to be helping out
Yeah.
listings. Closings is going to be helping out contracts and listings. It's
Yeah.
just, it's going to be busy.
Yeah.
Jessica wrote, is there a specific loop for rentals or leases where the client is leasing from someone?
So when you start to set up a loop, you have to choose a loop template. So it sounds like you would be looking for a contract rental loop. Let me look and see what our templates are. Yeah, templates. So we have the loop templates of, let's see.
Share your screen again, Sam.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so I just came up here to templates. And then I'm going to the loop templates down here. Nope, that didn't work. Oh yeah, it did. Okay. So you have all of these options to choose from when you're selecting a new loop. These are the loop templates. These will populate all of the documents you need. So I would say probably choose the contract residential lease for that. Or if it's a commercial property, you can choose contract commercial lease. So the contract residential lease will auto-populate the documents of the rental contract deal sheet and the residential lease for single family home. And that's it. Those are the only two docs you'll need to start. You might have extra docs you pull in at time, whatever, but
there's also a listing lease rental loop template. So a
Yeah,
contract
there's a listing
lease,
lease.
that would be like if you got the tenant, and this would be if you have the landlord.
Yes. Yep. So the listing for lease is the same. There's a few more documents because we need the MLS data form, the tax record. We need to know if there's a sign or not.
Yeah, just a little shout out here for you guys, Sam, because you were very involved in this too.
Yeah,
Most
this was
brokerages
mainly
don't have their loop set up like this.
No.
They have dot loop, but you have to go build your loop every time you start one.
Yes.
The amount of time that went into building all these templates that you just pick the one you want and everything's in there. I mean, find somebody who works for another brokerage with dot loop. They didn't have these things done. This is a really nice service. So take advantage of it. Choose the right loop and you'll be rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, because usually what would happen is you would start a blank loop and you would have to go into the add document section and pull in each document you need. But instead we decided to skip that step and really just make it as easy as possible. If you're starting a listing for residential sale, all of these documents will populate. And the difference between this loop and a commercial loop is that data form. And then you won't need the seller property disclosure. You won't need the affiliated, the home warranty. So really, depending on which type of transaction you're doing, we've built out these paperwork sets to guide you so you don't have to question what you need. Do I need a seller property disclosure on a commercial deal? It's not required for the back office because it's a commercial deal. They're savvy enough. So the questions can be answered just by looking at what's here. Same with vacant land. Instead of the vacant land, or we'll have the vacant land disclosure statement instead of the seller property disclosure. The vacant land MLS data form is in here. And same with contracts. If you need anything to guide you for a contract new build, you can look at the loop and see that, oh, okay, there's a lot less documents here than the regular contract.
But notice the deal sheet's in every one of them.
The deal sheet is on every one of them, yes.
Nancy wrote, can we just add a blank addendum to the contract templates? Almost always needed it during the contract period.
There is a blank addendum. The problem with that is we only want, in the loop templates, we only want these necessary documents that are required.
You'll have to submit one. You have to put something in that placeholder, submit it for review if you didn't have one.
Yeah, so we can make it optional and it wouldn't matter, but then we have to pull in all the optional documents and then the list grows and grows. So we really kept it bare minimum because like on the listing side, a lot of the times the property will have an HOA and that HOA addendum will need to be pulled in. But we didn't want to start the loop off with all of that stuff in there because there are some deals where it's not necessary. And then the agents get in there and they're like, well, why is this in my loop? I don't need it.
Right.
So kind of the same with contract addendums and stuff like that. We just don't have it in there because it's not outright required and we don't want to confuse. We just want it to be the bare minimum of what you fully will need.
Makes sense. Hey, Sam,
Yeah.
go into any loop and let's look at the checklist at the bottom to make sure everybody's aware of what those are for a listing or a contract. Or hopefully
Here's one that's closed. We're going to do sold data on it. I need to get with Dana still. But so this is a full, there was no, it's her buyer, so there's no listing loop or listing folder, but there's the contract folder, the closing folder, and this will be submitted to listings eventually. But there's task lists, and these weren't used. But this will also guide you to what you should be doing. If you are kind of stuck and you don't know what's next, you can look through these task lists at the bottom. This one's for agents specifically. And you can kind of guess like, okay, well, I haven't added the inspector to the loop yet. Let me do that. Let me schedule financing commitment.
That's really important. I mean, what we really want here, guys, is for the customer to get involved with the loop. Because if they do, this becomes their home document storage system for their career. And who are they going to think about every time they go into your loop? You, right? So put their home inspection in the loop. They have access to it. So they want to see it a year from now. Put their survey in the loop. Put their termite and WDO inspection report in the loop. And this is their virtual file. And it's theirs. It stays with them. We pay for a dot loop license for each one of the agents every month. Thousands of dollars, right? And it's not going away. And even if we did stop it, the loops are still going to be there. And and then when they buy a new refrigerator, they can scan the receipt and put it into their loop. I mean, it becomes a really cool place to do things. So just know these checklists are there. Contract task. If you're listing, add contract folder to the listing loop.
Yeah,
So
this is for the transaction coordinators. This is what they could do for you. But again, you need to communicate with your transaction coordinators and set expectations. Just because this task list is here doesn't mean that this is what they're going to be doing for you.
No, these are suggestions as reminders that you guys need to do some.
This is what they could do for you, but you need to communicate with them of what your expectations are. And then these will all be done by admin. Sometimes they get checked off, sometimes they don't, sometimes we're in a rush. But this is all the steps that admin will take in your file. And same on the listing side.
See, like collect client email address and best contact number.
Dotloop makes that easy.
Yeah, it does. But if the agent just fill out the deal sheet, we never get their phone number.
Exactly.
Which means your database is going to be blind because it doesn't have a number in it.
Yeah.
Because we can push a couple buttons and give you a whole consumer history list.
We're doing the golden ruler reports again on listings. So if we don't have your client's listing or email at time of listing, that means that we can't set up the golden ruler report to give them. We can't send out a survey at time of closing because there's no email to go to. So it is important that we, for back office reasons, and for you too, that your client, there's benefits to giving us.
We're maintaining your database for you. So give us the data so we can put it in the base.
Yeah. Yeah. So these task lists aren't mandatory. It's not to be daunting. It's not to scare you off. It's just to guide you and give you some suggestions of what you could be doing. Let me see if I can find a listing.
Let's just look at that. We're 2 minutes left.
Oh, we do? Okay. Like, I know that this is a listing going live right now. I think it's Tony Rita. And his loop is good. But so I know at time of listing, I check off where we are on the listing side. And then when I make the listing live, I check off so they know what's been done. So the sign up order will still be blank until we put a sign up order there. If I have a seller that wants me to lease the property to find a renter, which template do I use? The rental listing.
Rental listing.
Yeah, listing rental, residential.
Brenda asked about a general new build template.
There is a listing for new build. Let me come back to the loops. There's a listing for, actually, I don't think there's a new construction listing because it's just a residential listing. But if it's a contract new build, there is a new build contract there.
Click on that and see what's in it because it'll show you.
Yeah, contract new build. And then if it's a new construction listing, just choose residential, because that's what it is. It's on the MLS data form for residential. There's a section for new construction. So it would just be
So
that.
Sam, let's say it's a Lennar home.
Mhm.
We want a deal sheet with it because we want a deal sheet with it.
Yes.
Affiliated business arrangements, it says it's required, but it's a Lennar. We know they're using Lennar title and Lennar mortgage.
Mhm.
So what do we do about that?
Send us a message and let us know, and we can note file with that. I had that happen last night. Carlene wrote me and had that exact scenario. She's like, I won't be needing the affiliated business and I'm not going to be using the home warranty. And I just saved her email to the file and I wrote notes to file, no ABA, no HOA, and I just removed the requirements for that so she could go ahead and submit.
Well, let's talk about the home warranty disclosure, because Global Home USA does have a 5-year, year 2 through 5 warranty. The builder's only going to give them a 1-year warranty. And it's a really inexpensive policy for 4 additional years of coverage on all of their appliances after the manufacturer's warranty wears out. So it's a good idea to make them aware of that. So just give them the warranty disclosure, have them decline it to cover your butt. I mean, that's how I feel about it. But
yeah. But yeah, you can just email us contracts at C21BE, listings at C21BE if you can't remember. You can shoot a message to Ange in .loop or me in .loop or Celeste or Angela in .loop, Chris in .loop. Any of the admins will be in your loop to message without you having to add them in your loop. And that's important to note too, is that you don't have to add us in your loop. You should never be adding admin to the people section in your loop. When we do see it, we remove that because that is where the extra loops come in and it just confuses things in .loop's mind.
hey, scroll down to the agent task list or checklist. Just look at some of those real quick. If it's our listing, add the contract folder to the listing. It's going to give you specific things to do. So don't create 2 loops. Put your contract and your listing the same. If it's not our listing, create a buyer loop using a pre-made contract template. It goes through the little checklist for you. So take a minute. I know you're trying to rush through everything, get done, but when you get a free moment, look down, schedule the financing application, schedule. This is all your critical date timeline stuff. It's all in there. So if you're new and a little confused, we have really good task lists in there for you to follow. Samantha, thank you very much for joining us this cold, chilly morning in Chicago, an hour before us.
It looks like Angela just wrote in a question. If you want to get to that before we sign off.
For home warranties, the basic gold $495 is paid at closing by seller. If she adds a $75 listing coverage at time of order, when will that be due? Yeah, and okay, you buy the $495 and add the $75 listing coverage, the home inspection coverage. That's okay to do. I generally recommend just go platinum all the way and it covers everything, but that's a little more pricey now. But that's a good way to
do
do
at closing still, right?
Yes, it's due at closing.
Okay. Cool.
All right, everybody. Happy Thursday. Thank you for showing up. I know there's a lot going on. We really do appreciate it. You're unsharing your screen. Mike's probably going to sign us off now.
Cool.
And have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Adios.